So, you might have seen that I've been getting some Dinky catalogues of late, and I've also been delving into the eBay, and I sniped on this eagle at the very last second. I was very proud of myself, and I managed to snag it. Went for about £30. It's not pristine, but it really isn't bad either. And actually, this is in far better condition than the version of it that I owned when I was very little and banged about for years, because it actually has all 4 of its engine bells still intact. Mine was down to 2 by the time it finally left my possession to go to a charity shop. Let's not get into that. But as you can see, it's a little bit sort of browny coloured almost. Not sort of, but really, you know, at first glance, it's in pretty decent condition. You can see it's you know, it's a little bit banged up, but she's fine for my display purposes. And really, this was just to sort of remind me of the one that I had back when I was little. But in looking at this one, it does remind me of something that I found quite curious, because whilst this is an eagle, this is also an eagle, and also a Dinky eagle from nearly the same era. But can you spot the differences? Well, yes, of course you can, because they're bleeding obvious. But basically, red RCS thrusters, yellow RCS thrusters, red plastic engine bells, shiny, I want to say aluminium thrusters, and well, I haven't appreciated, because I haven't actually looked at this one for a little while. The sort of reaction chambers are red here, and quite a deep red as well. It's not actually the same red, looking at it in this light, as these guys are. So at some point, they obviously decided to switch the two colour schemes around, but the core model is basically the same except green. But this is the younger version, and ironically, it's in much better condition than this, because this one has been kept very nicely minty in its Dinky Toys Eagle Transporter original box. So, you know, that this is in really good condition. Now, there's another difference here as well, because you can see that the landing thrusters there, including the ones on the pod, are bright and shiny and silvery. The landing thrusters on this guy, however, are red plastic. So at some point, somebody obviously made a design decision to switch what were probably some of the more expensive elements of it over to plastic and make them red for no apparent reason. Now, they're never these colour. In terms of the actual show Space 1999 itself, this is a much more accurate eagle, because the eagles in the show were always white. There was no colour differentiation. I would quite like to get a blue one, just for the sake of having a blue one, because that was the other colour that Dinky brought them out in. Now, what I'm actually trying to do at the moment is get a younger version of these Dinky catalogues that I have here, and I haven't actually done my video for number 14 yet, but as you can see, I've got 12, 13 and 14 there. I want to go back in time further, because in number 12, the eagles that you can see here, if you really sort of look hard, you can see that they've got the red thrusters, the red RCS thrusters, and the red main thrusters at the back. You can also see that the pod is very stripy there, and there are some vestiges of those stripes still on this one. But there are also these clear windows. Now, I remember having this green version, and the windows were red plastic. So what I would quite like to figure out is when this sort of switchover occurred, because I bet that some of the top-down pictures could show me. In fact, they do here. Now, actually, given that I've just mentioned it, that's somewhat ironic. But this is from number 13. So this was the next catalogue. You can see there that you've still got the red, but you can just about make out that the pod windows there do look red. You can also see that that's when that might be the first time the blue one came on the market. And you know what? I've just noticed as well that the other difference there, although I don't have an example of it, is that the nuclear waste pods there are carried in a cradle pod which is white, not red. I had a red version of it which came with the white eagle. So I'm now very interested in getting hold of one of those blue eagles, because I don't think I ever had them. You can see there on the other side the UFO Interceptor and the Shadow Mobile. Now, again, I don't have either of those. I used to have the Interceptor a long time ago. I have kept half an eye on eBay auctions for those, and they're going quite pricely. I think I'd find those cheaper in a shop in various states of repair. But if you're interested, I can certainly try and find an example of those, because they're Jerry Anderson as well, obviously, and apparently Space 1999 basically morphed out of what would have been UFO's second season. UFO was quite a dark show. If you're not familiar with it, you might be interested to look for clips of it, because it was quite a dark live action Jerry Anderson's show, and maybe why I didn't do so well, I don't know. But in any event, they switched over to Space 1999. So I'm going to do a little bit more research on this, as I say, and I'll do another Dinky catalogue sort of breakdown, as I've got a slightly older Dinky catalogue, just to go back and try and figure out exactly when they officially sort of switched them over. But these two are basically the toys of my childhood, because I played with them for hours and hours. And the pods are completely interchangeable. I can quite happily put the Green Eagles pod onto this, and indeed this is what a lot of people would consider as being the sort of the standard Eagle configuration for a lot of the time, because that was a standard transport pod sort of configuration. But then you could just drop it down, take your Eagle off flies the Eagle, and it was, this was literally, that's about as complex as the photography got on the show, because it was all practical. There were no CGI effects back then. It was all just done with completely practical eagles every single time, of varying scales and so on. So, really impressive show for its time, and one of those shows that is responsible for my science fiction sort of starship habit down the years. So I might try and see if I can get a blue one at some point. No idea how much they go for. I wasn't expecting quite so much of a fight for the White Eagle, if I'm perfectly honest. So I say I'm quite amazed that I actually managed to pick that one up. But you just have to sort of pick your battles with eBay auctions, as I'm sure you know. So I'm actually interested to have a look at the this 14th Dinky catalogue that I've got, because I think it includes some of the last models that Dinky ever released, because it was getting towards the end of their era at that point. So I will be interested to sort of flick through that and see how some elements of it had increased and others had shrunk. And I know that I've got a very banged up version of a model I haven't seen appear in other Dinky catalogues yet, sat on my windowsill, because it was one of the last things they produced. So I'm guessing that is the last catalogue they produced. But as I say, I'm going to go and hunt on eBay now, I think, and see what else I can find, because I got an offer for one. I'm also going to show you in due course another pair of Dinky models, one of which I've got, one of which is on the way. And fans of the original series of Star Trek will appreciate these when they arrive, I think, suffice to say. So I shall leave you there with my pair of Eagles, and try and perhaps source the blue one, maybe even try and source some others in due course as well, but that's perhaps longer term. Alright, cheers for now.